Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the CAYACastS2E8. I'm with our familiar face here, Bradley, and our wonderful guest for today is Tecla Ciolfi, a journalist, podcaster, editor, among many more things. But we always like to start the podcast by asking, what do you feel is missing from an introduction about you, like the one I just gave, or maybe the person introducing you at the UCT online school? What's missing, the fundamentals of text that we're not getting?
That's a really good question. I love that. I guess I'd love people to know that first and foremost, I'm an Arsenal fan. Like to the bone. I think
before anything else.
Before
everything else is
else.
built on top of that.
Yeah, everything else is built on top of that. I think a lot of people think that I'm like a casual Arsenal fan, and I've had to defend myself a lot over the years, and I'm not. I'm Arsenal.
Don't fuck with me.
Yeah. Like to the bone.
That's very important.
That was such a good answer to that question.
Yeah.
That was nice.
Sometimes people forget about our humanness when they introduce us, and it's like, no, capture my essence.
Don't talk about my accolades. Talk about the fact that I'm a gunner. God damn it.
100%. Okay, so now that we've established the important things in life.
Set the record straight.
So now that we've established that Texx is a gunner, I think let's look at, I guess, how this all started, and how, I mean, I remember messaging you like 2018, 2019 or something, a young high school kid, and having been a huge admirer of your work through Texx in the City, which, I mean, for me was the centerpiece of how I built my knowledge of the music scene in Cape Town. And yeah, I have a huge amount of respect for you for that and the other things that we'll discuss. But I think a lot of people know Texx in the City, but they may not know where it started, how it was born. So give us a quick, rundown on where Texx in the City started.
Texx in the City was born out of my procrastination at UCT and my want to do no work whatsoever. And I was in the library and I had an assignment due, and I was like, what can I possibly do that could take me away from the work that I'm supposed to be doing? I was like, I know, I'll put a blog. Like, why not?
This is so funny discussing this sitting in the thing that we did to procrastinate at university.
You see? You see?
The irony. Anyways, yes, procrastinating.
So I started a blog spot because that's what they were called back then. That's what the only thing that WordPress had. So it was texxinthecity.blogspot.com. And Instagram didn't even exist. Now I'm really showing my age. So it was Facebook, Twitter, and that was it. And so what I would
Web
do...
one.
Yeah. I mean, I don't even think Facebook had like business pages. I'm not sure. But I was writing just ramblings. I think my first ever post was about a friend of mine who's Irish, and it was St. Patrick's Day. And he likes to dress up every St. Patrick's Day. So I basically just wrote, like, if you see a crazy person dressed like a leprechaun, top to toe green, ginger, buy him a drink. And then the next day, my friend messaged me and said, I blame you for the hangover that I have today. Because there were a bunch of people that were like, saw this post, and mind you, at the time, I was literally only putting it out to my Facebook friends and then on Twitter. But at the time, I had a decent following on Twitter because I was part of this Cosmopolitan Twitter Queens campaign that they did. Anyway,
that sounds very interesting.
Yeah, that was
not to
fun.
go off topic, but a Cosmopolitan Twitter Queens.
Yeah,
in the early days of Twitter.
And they identified 10 South African women on Twitter that they thought were gonna be the next big thing in their field. Bonang was one of them. So I mean, I was in a really, really good crowd, like a very interesting crowd. And they did the photo shoot on a Tuesday at Orms. Was it Orms or Photo Hire? It might have been Photo Hire. The day after Monday Mercury. So I rock up, yeah, I was severely hungover. The shoes that I wore, which I actually didn't realize at the time, had like cigarette stubs underneath them.
Yes.
So there was this incredible photo that the photographer took, and he was like, yes, this is the photo. And they dressed me up and they put makeup on me and they're trying to make me look decent. And he was like, this is the photo. And he was like, but Tecla, what's happening with your shoes? Like, you've got like stompies underneath.
That's
your shoes.
great.
So he had to like airbrush out the bottom of my
remnants
shoes.
of a night at Mercury.
It's so funny. And I still have that Cosmopolitan at my apartment. It's, it was that.
That's
for
part of the
me-
law.
Yeah, that for me was the beginning of tons of opportunities that I got off the back of that feature.
Amazing.
Yeah. But
Okay.
we pivoted. What were we talking about?
So Texx in the city,
Yes.
and
So
the context was you had a
you had a
few Twitter
following because
followers.
you're already like a bubbling
Yes.
socialite vibes.
And my Irish friend was like, I blame you. And then I thought, okay, there's got to be some correlation here. Like clearly people are reading what I'm putting out. So what I started to do was I started to write every single day, sometimes 2 articles a day. Didn't matter what it was about. Like sometimes it was just maybe like a 100 word piece, but it was about music, obviously. But like I started to write and started to write and started to write. And I realized, because this is the first time that I'd actually written in a creative capacity about something that I really enjoyed. Up until that point, I haven't really done that before. And I was like, I'm actually really good at writing and I really enjoy it as well. And I was studying English and media at UCT at the time. And I was working at Zula Soundbar, which was a very popular live music event in Long Street. And so at Zula, I was seeing I was seeing a lot of bands, meeting a lot of bands, managers, PR agents, all that sort of thing. A lot of whom I still actually work with today and know today. So it was just a lot of right things happening at the right time. And then a guy by the name of Mike Smith, who was the publisher of a free street press magazine called Your LMG, he used to come to Zula quite a bit. And he was like, oh, I'm starting this magazine. It's about music. And I was like, oh, all right for you. And he was like, okay, cool. Email me, whatever. And then I fucked off to Sicily for like a month on holiday.
I mean, that sounds delightful.
Yeah,
though.
it was like UCT break and I went away and I was like, and I completely forgot about Mike.
Yes.
And then I came back and I was like, damn. I think that'd be really cool because what I could do is I could watch the bands, write about them at the same time and just utilize everything that was happening. So like 2 months later, I emailed Mike and I was like, here are 5 pieces. And he was like, whoa, who are you? And then
as he should.
And then he was like, these pieces are great. I'm going to publish all 5. So I was like, okay, cool. And then we sat down and we had a little bit of a conversation. Then I started writing for Your LMG and it came out monthly and I was doing gig reviews and then I started doing feature pieces. And then, I'm jumping forward a few years. And then eventually I ended up editing the magazine. So I was editing Your LMG, which at the time in Cape Town had become like a cornerstone of the music culture, of the live music culture. I had Texx in the City, which I was growing. And I had finished my honors at UCT. And Union doesn't exist anymore. I'm not sure what's there now. And Union was a beer garden in Bree Street. They approached me and they said, we would like you to curate a music night on Tuesdays, which I then called Tuesdays on Fire because my handle is Texx on Fire, my Twitter handle. And then we partnered with Ray-Ban. And how that happened was I think Mike actually gave me the email address or the number of the brand ambassador for Ray-Ban at the time. And I emailed her and I said, I have an idea. I think this could be really cool. I love Ray-Ban and Ray-Ban has such a strong connection globally with music. So maybe this could be something cool that we could do together. And I'm still working with Ray-Ban today.
I was going to say, that's
all
been...
those years later. And we met at An Union. We had an initial conversation. Tara, who's an absolute OG of the scene, was like, love what you're doing, like love your vision, definitely want to be involved. And we ended up doing 102 straight Tuesdays.
Wow.
At An Union. Yeah.
Yeah.
No breaks. And that was really how I built my event portfolio to start doing other things, because then An Union were like, oh, we really want you to book our Thursday nights. And their Thursday nights were sponsored by Puma. And that's how I got introduced to the Puma team. So I think the question that I get asked the most by people who want to break into the industry or people who are looking to make connections is, how do you make those connections? How do you find out who these people are? And I'm like, there is no like golden ticket. Now we have LinkedIn. Now it's actually easier to find someone's email address and get hold of someone than it was when I started.
Yeah.
Now you really have no excuse.
Or DM someone.
Or
Like, it's
DM.
so easy to...
Exactly. So Texx in the City keeps growing incrementally year on year. We're building a following. Instagram's a thing now. That's cool. We're getting bigger. I'm taking on more writers, which is something I didn't do before, because I started getting really busy from an eventing perspective.
Yeah.
So then more people were like, oh, how can we contribute? Which was really cool. So Sky was one of my first contributors. And she then became the video and reviews editor.
Shout out, Sky.
Yeah, Alessandro was also one of my earliest contributors. He's now the features editor. He does absolutely incredible work, and he keeps me in line. I've had some really, really talented people pass through Texx in the City. Al Clapper, shout out Al, love him.
We love you, Al.
Yeah, we miss you, Al.
Yeah, come back.
Come back.
Always. Just
yeah. And so as Texx in the City was growing, trying to see, where are we now? Texx in the City was growing. We're doing events. And then, so then I got emailed. I get this random email from a lady who says that she's from Deezer, a streaming service called Deezer. And she's seen my website, and they're looking for somebody to work for them in South Africa. You know, would I be keen to jump on a call? And I immediately delete. I'm like, what is this spam? This is ridiculous. Streaming there, whatever. delete. And then she emails me. Yeah. And then 2 days later, she emails me again, and I'm like, oh, well, whatever. Delete.
This is a damn persistent salesperson.
Email as well.
Yeah, I was like, goddamn spam coming back. Delete. And then she emailed me a third time, and I was like, okay, no, this is getting ridiculous now. I was like, let me just Google these people, you know, and just see. I Googled Deezer. I was like, whoa, okay.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Biggest streaming service in France, like, you know, growing their footprint in Europe. And I was like, okay, well, maybe I should reply to her.
Yeah, sorry, your emails were lost in spam.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, they ended up in my spam folder. I love to use that excuse. Sorry if I've used it to you. So I emailed her. She emailed me back immediately. The next day I had an interview. The following day I had a job.
Sure.
And it sounds amazing, but it was the beginning of a very like long and hard journey for me, because at the time I was like, yes, fantastic. I've got like my first ever job, and the team is in Paris. So I don't have to go into a job. I don't have to go into an office. There's no 9 to 5. Yes, I've got a weekly meeting with my boss, who was the most fantastic boss I could have ever asked for. But nobody knew what streaming was in this country. I mean, Simfi or Symphi, I still don't know how to pronounce it, was the only streaming service like in the country at the time, and their footprint was okay. Yeah, it was okay. Apple Music didn't exist. Spotify existed, but it wasn't here.
Early days. Yeah.
And so when I had my initial meetings with the record labels, it was like, or even PR agents or managers or artists, it wasn't what is Deezer. It's let me educate you about streaming.
Yeah.
And let me tell you why streaming is such a challenge in this country because of piracy and because of data prices and because of X, Y, and Z. So it was really difficult for me to lay that foundation and make those inroads to build Deezer up to a point where people knew what the brand was, because it was big in Europe, but like in South Africa and Africa, it was unheard of. So that was really tough. But I do feel like I did a really good job while I was there. I was at Deezer for 5 years. And then when I left, I was the African editor at the time, which is a crazy job spec. Like the African editor. Like now it's like global music. It's the same kind of term. It's like, what does that even mean?
Yeah. Do you realize how big Africa is?
Yeah, Africa is not a country, people. But yeah, I hit the ceiling at Deezer, and there was nowhere else for me to go. And my boss at the time, he did everything that he could. He was sitting in London to get me to stay. And I'm very happy that I decided to stay. No regrets at all. And then I was like, okay, well, now I've got it's Texx in the City or nothing, you know?
Yes.
And what I loved about Deezer, and the reason that I said that my boss was the best boss in the world, if you go and work for a lot of companies, a lot of companies won't let you have your side hustle and work for them at the same time. What Mathieu saw was that if I do well, Deezer does well. So he let me build my brand alongside Deezer. And we kind of both built ourselves up at the same time.
Yeah.
Which was incredible. He never said, no, you can't do that. No, your focus has got to be on Deezer. He saw the
cultural value.
100%. He saw the benefit in having me start to win blog awards and start to speak on panels and do things like the Cosmopolitan Twitter Queens and build my own personal brand up alongside Deezer. And so when I left, I was in a very good position to like take off and do my own thing. And what I'm so dumb now that I think about it. With my last paycheck, I bought a ticket. I bought a ticket to New York, and then I was broke. Bought a ticket to
New York
because I wanted to see Gaslight Anthem, and they were reforming, and one of my favorite bands, and they were playing at Governor's Ball, and I was like, you know what? I got money now. I don't know how long I'm gonna have money for, so let me go. Went to New York, completely changed my life. Completely changed my perspective, my outlook, gave me drive. I came back to Cape Town. I was like, I'm going to move to New York. My mother was like, hold up. Hold up.
Settle down.
Hold up. Why don't you move to Johannesburg first? Because
the New York of South Africa.
So at the time, what had been happening was I had, like I said, I'd started to build my events portfolio. I was doing Josie on Fire, which was this incredible event that I hosted once a month. It was free. It was at Open Room Studios. It's very cool. The bands would perform like inside the studio, and then everybody would sit outside and you'd watch through like a glass panel. And it was just so cool. So cool. And sponsored by El Jimador, and there was lots of free tequila, and it was great.
Love free tequila.
And so I was also flying up to Joburg, something stupid like 4 or 5 times a month. And I built up a good client base there, and there was a lot of stuff that was happening in Joburg. There were a lot of opportunities that were in Joburg that I hadn't explored properly. My mom was like, I know that if you go to Joburg, it will be a defining moment in your career. Go there first, scratch that itch, and if nothing happens, or if you're not fulfilled and you're still thinking about New York, then go to New York.
Yeah.
And I was like, actually, you know what? Yeah, I see the method in this madness, right? So I went to Joburg, and I mean, guys, I love Cape Town, right? But there's something about the energy of Johannesburg, the infectiousness of the people in Johannesburg, the culture. I feel like I'm in Africa. Like Cape Town is incredible, but I don't feel like I'm in Africa. I feel like I'm like somewhere nice in Europe.
It's
on the Riviera.
cosmopolitan.
Yeah. 100%. And people say that all the time.
Mm.
I think it's a distinction that people make a lot between Cape Town and Joburg. And Joburg fed my soul.
Yeah.
Amazing.
It was absolutely incredible. And also I made a lot of friends, so I could just plug and play, and it was fantastic. And I was still traveling down to Cape Town, still doing my aquarium events, still doing After Dark. Still my family's here, and unfortunately I left my dog in Cape Town as well because he had a heart complaint and I couldn't take him to Joburg with all the thunder and lightning and stuff. And I was like, I like Joburg. And then COVID happened.
Okay.
And
I was
then-
about to ask where we were in the years.
thank
Okay.
God.
2 weeks later, what happened? Lockdown. So lockdown for me, I feel very guilty when I say this, but lockdown for me was fantastic because of a number of different reasons, mainly because I stopped smoking. Because I was
Yay.
I was like a chronic smoker. Stopped smoking. No patches, nothing. Just
Hard to
done. Also, when I saw
Cold
the
turkey.
price,
Oh,
what
yeah,
cigarettes.
for
You went
sure.
no.
yeah, my housemate was buying illegal cigarettes. I probably shouldn't be
Yeah.
saying that, but whatever.
I mean, everyone did.
Everyone did.
And when I saw what he was paying, I was like, there is no way. There is no way I'm going
I
to
would
be
rather go through withdrawal.
100%.
Yeah. My greatest missed opportunity was not selling a bag of tobacco that I found that my brother left here and capitalizing on that. I was like, I should do it. I was like, no, I don't know. And then they lifted the ban and I was like,
You could have made thousands of rands on that bag of coal.
so much money.
no.
You could have been a gazillionaire.
I know. Wouldn't that be nice?
Flying backwards and forwards between New York and Australia. Anyway, so
Living the dream.
lockdown lifted,
Yeah.
and I was like, I've got to get out of here. I need to get out of here. It was the longest that I had not seen my parents for. We're a very, very close knit family. My mother, my father, and I. It's just the three of us. We always have been. And yeah, I was like, I got to get back to see my parents. I got to get back to Cape Town to see my dog. I need to go. And that time in lockdown made me realize that as much as I love Johannesburg, it's not a place where I saw myself putting down roots. You know, it's not a place where if I had children, I could see myself sending my kids to school there, buying a house. Just there was something about Joburg that as much as I love it, and I still do, didn't feel like home, and I needed to go home.
Because I kind of remember after COVID, you working with the studio a little bit, but
Yes.
where does Texx Talks start to come into all of this? And I guess
Probably
for roundabout now, I think. Yes.
Yeah. So just before lockdown,
Yeah.
I had people saying to me, you need to start a podcast. We know you love to talk. You need to start a podcast. And I was like, I wouldn't even know where to begin with something like that. Like, we were having this conversation before we started recording. I am not technically minded at all, you know, and luckily I found partners who were, and I had a great team, and we recorded the first season of Texx Talks with Zolani and Kifness, Alice, Phoebe Lou. It was a
Stellar lineup.
solid first season. We did that in studio.
I remember
So
that.
we did it in between Joburg and Cape Town. Trezor and BCUC we did in Johannesburg, and Alice and the Kifness and Zolani we did in Cape Town, and there was one other person who I'm forgetting. And then we sat on those recordings for a while, and then we went into lockdown, and then we released the first season of Texx Talks the first month of lockdown. So it was just right place, right time. And people seemed to pivot towards podcasts during lockdown more than anything else.
Yeah.
Then the first season was the success that it was. Number one music podcast on Apple Podcasts. It went into the top
Ranking
10.
in Africa.
It was silly. It was just silly. Then we faced the challenge of how do we now record the second season when nobody can move? And I've enjoyed a very, very good relationship with Tom's, the Only Music Store, over the years.
Yeah.
And Tom's were like, haha, we've got this very cool M Audio podcast kit that we're going to send you. And I'm like, but I'm not technically minded. How's it going to work? And they were like, it is so simple. It's simple.
Was it?
No, it wasn't. No,
Didn't think so.
It wasn't simple. It wasn't simple. So I was on the call with my producer, and he's saying, okay, you push the gain up. I'm like, I don't know what that is. I don't know. Turn the big button towards clockwise. I'm like, okay, that I can do. And then eventually, and also my laptop was so old, so it wasn't compatible with the software, so that we needed to try something else. Anyway, we recorded 2, 3, 4 seasons in lockdown, which is crazy. So I'm in my I'm in my living room, and I'm got my blanket over my head in my makeshift studio talking to Casper in your vest. Like, what is happening? So what is happening? And
I assume you didn't have your camera on.
No.
Imagine.
No camera. Also, no. But also, Texx Talks was a very, very special time for me. Like I said, I had a fantastic team, and I interviewed some incredible musicians, and I mean, front page of the Mail and Guardian, and we did some very special things, but that needed to come to an end for various reasons. But I think that the reason that Texx in the City is still here a decade and a half later is because I know when something is done. I know when the sell-by date of something is up, and I know when to move on to the next thing. And it's not good to carry on flogging a dead horse. Not that Texx Talks was a dead horse by any means, but it was time to just tie it up and put it on the shelf and be like, that was amazing. But I need to move on to something else now. Yeah. And it was sad. But it needed to be done.
And so you don't feel you've reached, or have you ever felt over the years, maybe it's a better question, that like a similar feeling for Texx in the City?
Oh, no.
Not at all.
No. I think somebody asked me a question on a radio show about 2 years ago, and they were like, oh, would you ever make Texx in the City like a podcast? Like basically disable the site and make it a fully fledged
just audio,
and I was like, not a fuck.
Like
never. Because I mean, I'll be very honest with you, in incremental amounts at the end of every year, I do see the time that people spend on the site getting less and less and less and less, and the time that people are spending on my socials getting more and more and more and more. But I just see the trajectory, the upwards trajectory of Texx in the City socials as another branch of the site. There has to be a home for all of that content to live. And there's so much content. I mean, I've paid one of those like lifetime things that so even when I die, like Texx in the City will live on. It'll always be there. I just feel like I have invested, my writers have invested, my team, my photographers have invested so much time in chronicling the scene that I couldn't. Like there's no way.
I mean, I was about to say, like, Texx in the City is, I mean, without a shadow of a doubt, the most comprehensive chronicle of the development of the music industry, basically in the, since the early 2000s, 2010, there or thereabouts, like, available anywhere, because anything else isn't as freely available. And it's a pillar of the scene in South Africa without a shadow of a doubt. So like can't.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for saying that
No,
as
but
well.
it's true.
Because when I started, it was Texx in the City, My City by Night, Don't Party, We Are Awesome. And the scene was thriving. And there was so much going on from a live music point of view, but also from an electronic point of view. And I feel like even though there's been a rise in content creators from a video perspective, which is amazing, and there are some people doing incredible work in chronicling the scene, there's got to be a home for that content to live. Because what if tomorrow Instagram decided, okay, cheers, we're switching off, we unplug it.
Which, I mean, of late has been a more and more realistic, like these major outages are happening, and and accounts can get lost.
Misspells
and
the code again.
Or something comes along like TikTok and explodes. Another app comes along, another something comes along. You
and
know
people
what I mean?
are like shifting.
Yeah. I mean,
but there's not that like place.
Exactly.
This is very interesting, like personal brand things to get into from a content perspective. But let's quickly first touch on the record, because I think, we're still relatively recently out of COVID in terms of a live music industry and what that looks like. And it's obviously been a huge passion in your life, and a shared passion in ours. What is on the record for? I mean, there's obviously After Dark, which has its own place in the culture. What is on the record as a concept? What do you want people to see from it, or get from
what
it?
I want people to see versus what the bands do when they get on stage, I've realized are two completely different things.
Yeah, no, not in your control, to be
I just
honest.
have to roll with it.
Yeah.
So no shame. So on the record, at its core, is chronicling the symbiotic nature of South African music and storytelling, because our musicians are phenomenal storytellers. And so I wanted to give them a space where they could unpack their songs and explain what that lyric means, what that bass line means, why our first album was such a monumental flop, but our second album was like our watershed. You know, I wanted to work with the musician or the musicians so that the venue, how we style the venue, would reflect the story that they want to tell. I want on the record to be a collaborative effort between me, the promoter, and the musician, the story that the musicians want to tell with their music. And I could not have asked for a better first on the record than Kujenga. Firstly, Kujenga have been around for 5 years. So, I mean, it's insane that they've been around for that long. I didn't even know that. When Zwede came to me and said that they wanted to celebrate the 5-year anniversary of their debut album, Nationality, I was like, oh, you guys been around for that long. That's not wow. And they're just starting. I feel like there's momentum behind them after the jazz festival. And it was so special that we could give them a platform to celebrate that moment. And the styling of the venue was so simple. I just got those giant blow-up balloons, those letter balloons, just to spell nationality. And we sort of put the stage in the corner, and the guys all wore their Ray-Bans. So you see, now we go back. Yeah, Ray-Ban. Yeah. So still working with Ray-Ban all these years later. And when I came to Ray-Ban with the concept, they were like, oh, this sounds amazing. Yeah, we definitely want to be involved. And then Shure, who are the main sponsor, said, yeah, we'll give you our Nexodyne microphone, which is, I mean, I think I've got like one of the first Nexodynes in the country for, well, I don't have it. The musicians have it to use for the event, which is incredible. So the fact that we're showcasing tech and lifestyle, and then Jaeger's in there for a little bit of a party, you know.
For the culture.
Yeah, for the culture always. So it's just on the record has been such a nice merging of all of the people that I've worked with over the years to realize this concept that I've been sitting on for so long. And I can't wait to see how it unfolds.
Because it's been there's a show
In promotion.
on Thursday.
ISO is now.
Yeah, on Thursday.
On Thursday.
Yeah.
ISO and then Majosi. I mean,
shout out and Klantla.
I mean,
obviously,
what can we say?
Yeah.
What can we say about Majosi that hasn't already been said?
I know. Soft hands.
I feel like there's an inside joke there.
It's basically, we were filming recently and he was there and we just shook hands and I was like, wow, your hands are soft. He's like, yeah, I just got off the plane and like lathered up, and I was like, nice. Like, but they were pillowy soft. So I feel you were like, maybe, I don't know what's left to be said. I was like, well, this is excellent.
Gina was like, I wonder if there'll ever be a moment I get to tell this story. The other day, you were just like, yeah, you were like, I wonder if anyone. So
that's
you
so
perfectly...
funny. Yeah, that was.
This is
Texx I needed to share. Really.
This needs to be the promo clip.
This is 100% a clip.
For the episode.
And it's just the clip of Majosi has soft hands. That's the hook. And everyone's going to go, what the fuck?
Oh my God. You know, a lot of people have said over the years that Francois van Cooke is the nicest man in South African music. I think Majosi might challenge Francois for that crown.
I have not met Francois van Cooke in real life. I have heard that. But I have met Majosi in real life several times. We are blessed to. And he's the nicest guy I've met in South African music without a shadow of a doubt.
No, he's incredible. And I'm very fortunate that I have people like Majosi in my life that I can just text, meet me for a coffee down the road. Because as cool as it is to like work for myself and like set my own hours and stuff, sometimes I do miss that, you know,
pros and cons.
Yeah, that like team vibe.
Yeah.
Not that I've ever worked with a team before, guys. I don't even know. Why am I lying
Your
like
Paris
this?
team.
Why am I lying like this? Yeah, I'm like, I miss the vibe of a team.
Yeah.
And then me 5 minutes into working with a team, I'm like, I hate everyone here. Like, no, but it is cool to like have someone to bounce ideas off. And yeah. And Majosi, I like to think that Majosi is that person for me. He might not know that, but now you know, Majosi.
Now you know. We've given you so much love. You just have to deal with it.
Yeah, no, he's great.
Yeah,
He's a great dude.
I was gonna say that the way he helps other young artists coming onto the scene is something that's so sorely needed. A mentor like that for young artists, and it's couldn't be a nicer person to do it. On the topic of the youth and engaging with the youths, it's something I've been thinking about a lot of late because, you know, like music culture, and particularly live music culture, I think like is, you know, there's a huge opportunity to really foster that. And it happens, you know, with students. That's where that culture, you know, and the small bands coming through, that's where they're playing. And I mean, like, it was a part of the scene that I was a part of pre-COVID. And then that the student part of my music, whatever, was limited. You've now got, there's on the record, it's on the mic. I was like, because we've got behind the mic and you've got on the record. And I was like, okay. And I nailed it. On the mic, which is a activity that you have gone back to your alma mater and are now facilitating as in fact, maybe you would be best to explain it.
Yeah, so UCT Online High School approached me and they said, for term 3, we want you to run a virtual club. You can talk about whatever you want to talk about and the kids will sign up. So make it cool, because if you don't make it cool, they won't sign up. And then
you were like being cool for the kids.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Do you know how much pressure
That's
that
worse
puts
than
on you?
anything else.
Oh my God. I was so nervous before the first one. I was like, what if they don't like me? Oh my God.
So funny.
No one's worse than teenagers.
So true.
Yeah. And all their cameras on, so you can see their judgy little faces if you're not good. So I have 6 weeks, 6 classes, 6 topics. So I'm talking about social media, podcasting, live music eventing, something else and something else that I can't remember. Honestly, it was something that when they approached me, I was like, how would this even work? Like, again, you and I were talking before we started recording this, and not technically minded, Google Classroom. Oh, like, why?
Almost didn't make it to the lecture.
Almost didn't make it to the lecture. Yeah, the call kept kicking me out, and I kept coming back in, and I was like, what is happening here? Oh, please just let it work.
Yeah.
Why? But yeah, here I am. Getting better with the technical things day by day.
Sometimes you just have to give the machine like a stern look.
Yeah.
I
The
feel like
machine.
they have, whatever it is, the laptop, that's whatever. Like they have emotions and you're just like, I am the boss of you.
Sometimes, they just need a presence, a little bit of a talking to. And
I swear, this is a little bit random, but our Yoko machine, we change it from cafe by day to like events so we can track things.
Smart.
I'm now putting in the code. I know what the code is because I just do. I've put it in twice. I'm like, no, this thing is going to like shut down. I take it to Brad. He puts literally the same code in. Ping.
It's the information systems degree. The machines respect me.
That's what I'm saying. They have emotions and respect.
You've got to go to them with...
and I feel disrespected.
This has been a common theme throughout the season, and I'm excited to, get into it a little bit. We we are preaching to the choir here because I know more so than we do even, the depth and variety and volume of talent and capacity in, in Cape Town, in South Africa, at large as a music industry and the, immense, variety in it. But there's a lot of things that get in the way of us making the most of that. But I think it's always this flip, there's two sides of the coin. Like on the one side, there's so much pride. There's so many exciting things happening. There's so much innovation. There's, musically, technically, all of these things. And then there's a lot of things that are holding us back. So I think for me, it's like a bit, the first way to look at the question is like, what is the biggest missing element that you see structurally in the scene that you just have consistently felt you running into, when dealing with artists, when dealing with whatever it is? And what is the thing or a couple of things that you're at the moment really excited about that keep you, excited? Because I think that's, always our sentiment is like, we're so passionate and excited about where the scene's at, but there's things that we need to work on. What do you think?
So I think while Texx in the City serves a very specific function in the industry, mainstream media still plays a very, very huge role in how artists get discovered to a mass audience in South Africa. And I don't feel like radio and TV is doing enough. I feel like the gatekeepers keep those cards very, very close to their chest, especially in radio. And I understand that like mass market listens to Amapiano now, and still house and gospel, and there are very, very few radio stations that deal with pop, that deal with hip hop. You know what I mean? And I feel
let alone genres like rock.
No! I think shout out Mix FM. You know what I mean? Like who else is playing? Yeah, and I just wish that there was a little bit more variety that was available to artists, a little bit more avenues that were available to artists, so that when X artist is releasing a song or a music video, they can actually get that music video playlisted somewhere. I mean, the bastion of TV performances is Espresso. There's nothing else.
I knew you were going to say that because I was also thinking it.
There's nothing else for an artist. And like, shout out Espresso, but come on, there cannot be only one.
Yeah.
And like, if you don't make Afrikaans music, like, oh man, there are so many opportunities that are available to Afrikaans artists.
Yeah.
It's like
the Afrikaans industry is massive.
Yeah, it's
and so well.
It's so
enforced
huge
and supported.
Exactly. And they support each other. There are foundations, there are avenues, there are media outlets. There's so much coverage. Like, Franco van Coke,
Mm.
Liefde by die Dam,
Yeah.
like, Die Heuvel's Fantastisch, like
Yeah.
all those people. I mean, like, those events are, I got a press release before I came here, like, Liefde by die Dam gears up for sold out edition. I mean, they even added an extra show in Namibia. But I understand why alternative artists in South Africa hit a ceiling and then they moved to Berlin.
Yes.
Yes.
I understand why.
Yeah.
Because where else are they going to go?
Yeah.
There's nowhere else for them to go. Streaming has opened up avenues for artists to reach
Yeah.
Yes.
And
Other-
social media.
and
Yeah.
social media. I mean, like, look at Internet Girl, look at Yellow House. Yellow House, who's also performing at After Dark, by the way, but it's sold out. Yellow House has more monthly streams than Jeremy Loops on Spotify. I did not know that. That's crazy shit.
Yeah.
And he's performed once. That blows my mind.
Yeah.
That completely blows my mind. I mean, Internet Girl are doing so incredibly well
Mm.
in other countries.
Yeah.
But
Mm.
yeah,
They've got an audience.
they've got an audience here, but they've got a bigger audience overseas.
Mm.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And they are phenomenal.
Mm.
Like pushing boundaries sonically.
100%.
It's just on multiple different levels.
Yeah.
So I think a lot more can be done from a national media perspective, just in terms of opening up the avenues a little bit, opening up the opportunities a little bit more.
Mm.
But then I also think, I was gonna say brands should get more involved, but brands are doing the most. I think brands are doing
Yeah.
as much as they can. I mean, it would be good for like government to get involved from a legislative point of view, but let's not even go there.
Yeah. When you said the different, my brain now, this is when we hit this mark, my brain starts glitching. Avenues, yes, my brain was going venues. The different like media avenues. Yeah, avenues, it's the dyslexia. Different avenues that artists can go to, and that there's really only like espresso. It's made me think recently, every time I go on YouTube, I now know that there's a Deadpool Wolverine movie coming out that I probably wouldn't have, because every mini content series like that's on YouTube has Hugh Jackman. Yeah, I literally like their faces will not get off my YouTube like upcoming, and it's like one. I think, am I gonna get like roasted for this? I don't know.
No, say it.
This
Fuck
is
it.
the
No, say it. Say it.
like
say it.
espresso, and they even like clip and put out all their segments on YouTube and stuff, but they literally get no views, and I feel like they're really just not up to date with like the current media and
It's content for content's sake.
yeah, that's kind of what it feels like.
Yeah.
And which is a shame. I mean, if you want help,
Yeah.
not me, like, but if we had more of those like US based like mini content series that people can't wait for the next episode, they can't wait to see who's burning their mouth on like hot wings or playing with puppies at L. Like, obviously that's not inherently like connected to whatever the artist or the actor or whatever's doing, but it just puts your face out there. It's like another reminder to the audience, to the public, that you're here doing something.
And I mean, I think that what I was going to say kind of off the back of that and what you were saying is like culturally, I feel like so it's like lack of infrastructure. I think one thing I want to ask is about venues and artists and how they can, make things as easy as possible for one another. But, whether it's with, web series, whether it's with podcasts, whether it's with actually coming to shows, I feel like there's this disconnect in the market of, and I think it's changing and improving, and people are consuming more and more South African content and more willing to engage with South African creators at home. But it feels like, especially for a long time, there was this big attitude of like, you've got to make it over there before we'll support you, as opposed, which, we all know makes no sense, because artists come from somewhere and they have to be supported by the place they're from, largely. And I think while the options have opened up, those have, I think so that was kind of in terms of the, how can we make the culture more engageable for the audience? How do we get people to consume more content, consume more shows? locally, because while, you know, there are options that are now digital and aren't as locally bound, you know, so much of the culture is still in what's happening here and now, and how do we encourage that kind of off the back of.
So I think that if you put out a high quality product
Mm-hmm.
and you have a good marketing campaign and strategy behind what you're putting out, and your content hits different audiences, not just one audience, I think that could be a winning formula for content. Starting out with making a podcast, I had no idea. I was like, oh, maybe like 3 or 4 people are going to listen to this, and hundreds of thousands of people listen to it. I couldn't have predicted that. But I knew going into making the podcast that I wanted to set the bar really high in terms of the production quality, the guests that I had on, the questions that I was asking, the artwork that we were putting out. I had a standard, and I didn't want to just put something out and then, oh, you know, we'll figure it out as we go. No, I wanted to hit all those points from the get-go. And that's why I think it did as well as it did. And that's my blueprint to something being successful.
Yeah, I think that sort of touches on a topic which has also been a common theme, because obviously we speak to a lot of different creative professionals in different fields, but also a lot specifically in music. It's the, I feel like people are going to get tired of me saying this, but it's the professional and like creative professional. It's like the pre-planning that's going to allow your creative like magic to fly into the world. But if you don't teach it to fly, it can't fly, kind of thing.
Yeah. I do think now we're hitting like the nitty-gritty of the podcast, because everything up until now, I feel like it's been great, it's been informative, it's been a nice story, but it's been, I don't really think I've spoken about like, not necessarily the negative side of the industry, but how my journey hasn't necessarily been like an easy one. Now it's like, I feel like
Do you feel primed for it?
Yeah, I feel like I'm in a good position. But I mean, I'm a woman.
Yeah.
So working in the music industry, going to a lot of gigs, like when I was very young, when I started, you can imagine the things that I was called.
Yeah.
You know, you can imagine how I was treated by specific people, musicians, managers, promoters, whatever. And, you know, like even actually up until very recently, I had a small incident with a client at an event, which was horrendous. But I feel like now I'm like I'm okay to talk about those kinds of things. You know what I mean? Like I'm okay to be like, yes, my journey has been fucking phenomenal and I've enjoyed every moment of it. But also there've been things that have been tough. You know, they've been like, this industry doesn't exactly pay a lot. You know what I mean? So you have to be willing to work super hard, maybe work a few jobs. But if you don't love what you do in this industry, you're gonna find it really, really hard. You guys know.
I'll be like,
you're gonna find it really, really, really hard to stick it out for the long game, when eventually, you know, you will start reaping the fruits of your labor. Like, it took me a long time. And I think that the reason that Texx and the City is still around is because I never did it for the money.
Yeah.
And I always did it, and I always will do it for the love of the scene, the music, the musicians. And I think that's why we'll be around for a very long time.
Couldn't agree more. I think so little to be said on top of that. It's so well put in terms of the realities of the industry. And I think it goes back to that duality of what one feels working in this industry is, you know, and I mean, we talk about it often. It's like, if we didn't love what we do,
It's hard.
It's not worth it. but there's a fulfillment. And I mean, I've been reminded of late just by like, having just like thinking of a month of shows that we've had at the cafe and just going, holy shit. And it's been a couple of months of the last while where it's like we've had a Zulu singer, a Xhosa singer, an Afrikaans singer, English singer, or like, and every, iteration on that, and just standing there watching and going, so few people in the world get an opportunity to go watch live music in their country and go once a week and hear 4 different, languages, cultures, perspectives on storytelling, the way that they write music, the way they make music. Like, so few people in the world get that privilege. And that is, for me, so much of the, the why of it all. But at the same time, it can be so frustrating and so exhausting because there is so little, I think, broader economic understanding and respect for the industry and for, the fact that, like you said, it is so hard for so many people to make any kind of a real career in the music industry in South Africa, now to this day. And, those are the things that, stop us making the most of what is, I mean, I'm biased, but I think the combination of what South Africa has geographically in terms of influences from various places overseas, in terms of cultural mixing, and there is no creative scene like South Africa. I don't think you can replicate there's no environment like it anywhere in the world. And so we have that, and we've had artists and creators that have become the best in the world. There's several of them right now, DJs, musicians, songwriters, athletes, so many things, despite it all.
Threw in athletes there for the
for the Olympics. Shout out to the homies at the Olympics doing the most. But there's so much there that we can do despite it all. It's like, imagine what we could do if things were, the environment was more conducive and there was more equality and access and, and I think that's what we're all trying to do. And that's why I think it's important that we have the conversations around, and around the reality of it, that it is so hard unless you,
Yeah, I think you've very lovely given me my flowers throughout this interview, and you've been very kind with the things that you've said about me. But I think that you should also very willingly take your flowers as well, because it's not easy to do what you guys are doing, and you've built such a great home at Kaya. And I know recently with the event that we did with Kern, he felt so welcomed, and it was such a great space. And from small things like showcasing local designers and artists, and like you making the food, and it's a very homely space, and there are very, very few spaces like that in the country. So I think that you guys should be very, very proud of what you've created as well.
Thank you, Tecla.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're not good at accepting compliments.
We're trying our best.
Neither am I. So I'm repaying the favor.
Fuck you guys.
Super uncomfortable. Yeah. You see what it's like.
Sure. No, but it is true, and we share their shows. We go and engage with shows at the Commons. That's what we need for a scene to develop. It can't be venues in isolation. There has to be a circuit. That's critical. We want them to do well, because if they do well, we do well. Because the scene develops. What do you think venues can do to make things easier for promoters, for artists, for whatever that looks like? And then the flip side of the question is, how do artists do that for venues?
Brad, why are you asking me difficult questions at the end of the interview when my brain is puffed?
Shame.
Okay, I can withdraw the question.
I don't even think it was on the the core topics was it?
No, it's such a good question. It is such a good question. I mean, venues have to make money and artists have to make money. I mean, the most obvious answer is like drop your venue fee or just make it affordable for artists to play. But then how does the venue make money? Yeah, they make money off the bar. But what if like all 50 people who come in only have one drink, or out of those 50 people, only 25 of them have a drink? Then how does the venue make money? So for the musician,
Good
you
question.
but then it's also it's counteractive because then for the musician, it's like, well, how do we afford your venue fee if only 50 people are attending and we're hardly making any money?
Yeah.
All of that's going to the venue fee. Then what are we going to do? Why should we play your venue? So I don't know. I mean, this is where brands come into play. This is where, you know, a brand will sponsor an evening, cover set fee, jump on board as a headline sponsor, maybe, you know, cover the venue costs or something. This is where you need a third party to come into play, because if the venue and the musician are both struggling, you need somebody else to intervene. It's not gonna. There's no,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And like it's like venues, like venue, we always use of blast is the, you know, the name of the crowd, which you know is like that. But like that's and sometimes it's easy, you know, options. You know, like just a couple of you know, around 40 sometimes, you know, if he is like what you need, and like kind of options this and what they know it's all the options like obviously and there is probably like, you know, we about them then it goes down, you know.
Well, I'm sure Bradley could yappa on about that forever.
I can pick your brain on this forever.
What you need to do is you need to get the mainstream radio stations to play those bands' songs so that more people will come to the events, so that the events will be full. The musician can pay the venue fee. The musician also makes money, and there we go.
Comes back to your point.
There you go.
You were right the whole time.
Yeah.
All along.
Obviously.
As always.
Always right.
Well, considering you're so right in your opinions or facts, should I say, we like to end the CAYACast by asking you just to shout out anything, anyone that you're loving and really want people to know about, go see, support in any realm, really.
And this is a non-exhaustive list because
please
it's
don't.
impossible for this to be...
No one needs to be offended if they're not on it.
Okay, so I've given quite a few
I was going to say, this has been a pretty strongly...
during this podcast. But I think if I could just in general say that if you're not attending live music, why are you not attending live music? Like, you're listening to this podcast because you're interested in what I have to say. You're interested in what you guys have to say. You're interested in the scene. You're probably interested in music. When was the last time you went to see a gig?
Yeah.
If the answer is like more...
It's not last week.
Yeah. If the answer is more than a week ago, then you're part of the problem.
Or you wait for like festivals.
Yeah, no.
Like, I think people just... It is really easy, especially when it's cold, to like stay home.
Yes.
But we do this thing, Mountain Valley Flower, in our like weekly recon meetings, and it's like the highlight, the low light, and what you're looking forward to, like of the week or whatever. And often all of our mountains are one of the live shows that have happened during the week, because it doesn't actually matter everything else that happened. It's just like when you're there and connecting and like the beauty of what's around you. Like not everything's doesn't matter as much. All the shit doesn't matter for a moment.
Exactly.
Boy, is there a lot of shit.
And if you're going to support anytime now,
if you're sharing artists,
winter is the time to support. That's when you want to support bands and venues, because that's when they're at their most vulnerable, when they're struggling the most. That's when you really need to get up off your ass, put on a coat, a beanie, a hat, some gumboots.
It's just rain.
It's just rain.
You're not going to melt.
Yeah, you know how about Cape
Townians melt.
I know they.
Oh, man. If I could encourage anybody to get out there, if they want to get out there and support the scene, man, pick a venue that's like 5 minutes from you. It doesn't need to be super far. You don't need to go like to Stellenbosch.
Yeah.
Sorry, Stellenbosch, so far.
Shout out to the venues in Stellenbosch for doing the most.
I wish we had more time.
Yeah.
I mean, even just venues down the road, because we're a small venue, it's like no one else is operating the show. Like we have to be there, but we miss out on so much. Love to pop around to Stellenbosch soon.
Yeah, the guys at Daisy Jones, shout out to Mulman and team. Yeah, the guys at Daisy Jones are just doing the most incredible. I mean, that place is I want to stick my neck out here and say
Mm.
it's possibly the best venue up with Sognage. Is that how you pronounce it?
Sonage? Because I'm like, is it a soft G?
Sognage. I don't know.
Neither do I.
Whoa, okay.
We'll find
so
out.
this is going to be a fun edit. So those two, Sognage, why is it?
Sonage?
Sonage.
It feels like sound, like, I don't know. Anyways.
Sonage. I didn't study English.
We'll find
CT.
out. I don't think that's English, so I think you're good.
What's happening? So
Yeah.
I think that venue in Johannesburg, that one,
Yeah.
Okay.
and Daisy Jones
Yeah.
are the two best venues in this country.
Daisy Jones, I haven't been to the other one. Daisy Jones, so lovely. So lovely.
Yeah.
Fucking incredible.
Yeah.
I just wish it was in the middle of Cape Town.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe we
But-
should build something like that. Find a patch of land.
This
I
is
don't
what
know.
we've been fucking talking about.
Yeah, no.
So yes, get out
things.
there, support.
Yes, we
watch
co-opted your
events.
shout out or shout at maybe to the
Yeah.
people not going to
Yeah.
live music events, but shout out to the people that are.
Yeah, I feel like I've been
Yeah.
talking to this camera a lot.
Yes,
Good.
tell them.
Yeah, it gives great social
Eye
tips.
contact.
But yeah, it makes all the
Yeah.
difference.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it
Mm.
really
Oh.
does. And
Yeah.
on that
Yeah.
note, Texx, we're going to wrap up this fascinating, inspiring,
So wonderful.
yeah,
Joyful.
joyful. Yeah. Thank you so much for your time here. Thank you for your time with us. Thank you for allowing us to do the things that we've done together, and thank you for what you have done for our scene over the last 15 years. No. It's my outro. Yeah, really just appreciate it so much, and thank you for sharing all your wisdom so that other people can enjoy it
Yeah.
as we have had the blessing of doing for the last few years. So thank you for
watching
watching,
or
really,
listening.
or listening. If you enjoyed this, which you should have, give it a like, give us a subscribe, and we'll see you back in 2 weeks for the next episode of the CAYACast.
Thanks, guys.